Hi, everyone, and welcome to One Tourism World and the 2026 Global Tourism Conference. My name is Sharon Chen, Head of Growth for Aquila North America, and thank you all for joining us. One Tourism World is a global leadership a platform that accelerates collaboration, surfaces practical insights, and turns relationships into partnerships that strengthen the tourism and hospitality economy. It is now my great pleasure to welcome our guest today, Ryan Forde, the CEO of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association. Welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, Sharon, and good morning, everyone on the outside. It's a pleasure to be back here with the team, and I look forward to our conversation. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I am Ryan Forde, the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, based in the beautiful island of Barbados, the most eastern island in the Caribbean. Today, I'm going to speak about the evolving role of tourism and hospitality associations, and I'll just take you through a brief agenda, just giving you an introduction, explain who I am beyond the title, as well as discussing the tourism of the past, what we're all so accustomed to and that what we learn in university. We'll also look at our DMOs and our associations, as well as our future sustainability of the same said industry that we all love. So just a quick introduction, apart from the fact that I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association. As of last week, I've also been asked to be an independent senator by the President of the Republic of Barbados. The ask is to represent for the tourism industry, the one that we love so much and that we have our sweat and tears. I also am an advocate for youth engagement and development, and I also am a participant in the sporting world, as I used to play water polo in Barcelona, Spain, as well as for the national team of Barbados. And this is just a little bit about me and my engagements in the tourism as well as my country, Barbados. So as we know, the tourism of the past, as well to the individuals who do not participate in the tourism world, everything is always weighted on infrastructure. So they see an airport, they see a cruise ship, they see a large hotel, and that to them is what is tourism. And that has been a huge driving force in the connectivity of people around the world, as well as opportunities for employment, or if on a government perspective, taxes, as that's their main revenue driver. There's always the conversation around the industry being a low wage industry and how can it be improved. There's always the discussions with unions as well as individual team members around training and development. In some countries, the focus is still very much on that individual or singular language, and it's not widespread recognized as doing language training on the same level as doing service training. We always have the debates between private and public sector. Public sector traditionally in our Caribbean region is the DMOs. Who is the voice? Who is the ears? Who's the eyes? Who's the marketing body of our industry? That's the DMOs. In our case, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. From the private sector perspective, we're the ones responsible for the product. That is the hotels, the vacation rental companies who manage villas and apartments, townhouses. We also have restaurants, attractions, and DMC companies and transportation providers. But guess what? It takes two hands to clap, as our Prime Minister typically says. And because of that, the private and the public sector tend to work very closely together, not always in agreement. However, it is for the benefit of our beautiful island. We are always in a discussion around brand versus indigenous owned property. And the reason for that is, as you know, most of the international brands, if not all, they do have the support, they have the following, they have the engagement, and they also have the finances. But we do have travelers who are looking for indigenous owned properties as well as indigenous owned tours and attractions. And these both go well hand in hand because our customers, our clients, and our members, they are all loyal individuals. So one country cannot survive on one and not the other. We do know that there is a huge mix between leisure and business, as the world is a business place, but it's also a place for leisure and fun. We also look at individuals' budgets, and then sometimes they trot into the region of luxury. Persons want to be served even before they are there, and they want to be served after they are there. We also are cognizant of the fact that there are many geopolitical shocks that go back centuries that have affected many sectors. And as things go in the world and technology advances, we do have to be aware of these geopolitical shocks. So these are some of the things that we are cognizant as we look at tourism of the past. But how do we look towards the future? That is an area that we must also analyze. So just to give a quick differentiation between our marketing organization and our associations, I figured I would give you it from a Barbadian perspective. So the private sector, we are responsible for people and product. The marketing organization, the public sector, they are responsible for promotion and for marketing all of what we have, which is the product and our people. And for us to drive forward change or growth or interest, we must look at how we do three areas. And the three main areas that I pinpointed for today is how we diversify what we offer and how we do it. We also look at how we invest in our people and our communities, as well as into niche programs and segments. So if we speak first on diversifying our product, you may have a country, say like ours, Barbados, very beautiful, well known for its beaches, well known for its people, well known for our culinary. But we must also look beyond. We also bring in almost 150 million Barbados, which is around 75 million US dollars in sports tourism. And that's one segment that you don't actually have to travel just to play the actual sport. There are seminars, training initiatives. There are also the festivals. There are also club. There are youth, all the way to adults and masters, as well as professionals versus amateurs. And that is just one segment. We look at the MICE market. Obviously, we have the meetings, incentives, conventions, and exhibitions. And that is a huge area that beyond just doing airline business, it definitely is a huge buffer for any property as well as for any community. As you do know, there are suppliers from transportation to agriculture produce to chefs with the culinary experiences to lighting to audiovisual, and it goes on and on and on. We must also look at health and wellness, as health is a nutrient of longevity. As you know, many people are looking to travel to get in tune with their senses. During the COVID-19 period, Barbados was well known for doing a lot of hiking. And because we have a very commercial west and southern side of our island, persons were now adventuring into the east and the north. And that has allowed us to also expose persons to other businesses in these small communities, as well as to showcase the next beautiful side of our beautiful island, Barbados. Without going further into the diversifying of our product, as I guess you are understanding the direction I'm going, the other area we must look at is how we invest in our people and our communities. How do we drive change for them? So as we may build more hotels or we may refurbish them or villas or restaurants and attractions, we must also find those linkages that are important. How do we connect with manufacturing? How do we connect with the agricultural divisions as well as the farmers? And how do we communicate to our tourists as well as returning nationals the benefits of using local or using regional? And then how do we also invest in our people by, of course, giving them opportunities? For a long while, I've been talking about the mantra of internship to ownership. And that does not mean that you go from an intern to becoming an owner overnight. But similar to a hotel that has floors, you should be giving opportunities that persons can decide what floor they want to go to get off on. You should not keep it within the same families as the only owners. And those families should also be able to educate those that do not have the opportunity before and show them how they can become an owner in itself. So if I decided I wanted to get off the floor as a senior manager or a director or a CEO or GM, or if I want to go the long route of becoming an owner, then that opportunity should be given to me and I should be able to get off on that floor. And that is my mantra around investing in our people, giving them the opportunities to make mistakes, but that opportunity allows them to be able to grow, to understand where the mistake was, where they can improve, and also open up and give us opportunities and options as to doing things differently. Everything is not going to be the same over years and years and years, and we must find ways for us to develop our people and grow. And don't be scared if they have a side business. That is something that has plagued us in the industry for a long time. You sign contracts that says you cannot have a side business, but why not? It's a very low wage industry according to some. So why not allow us to have second businesses? Of course, if you can juggle and do it, then of course do it. I'm pretty sure that many hotels do not do delivery. I'm pretty sure that many hotels or attractions, etc., do not do parties or festivals, etc. They might participate, or they might not make their own jams, or they might not offer hair braiding services. These are things that we must realize is that in communities, especially in small islands like ourselves, then we must be able to give persons opportunities to grow as well as to expand into a financial level of comfort. Because after all, the more comfortable that a family and individuals are, the better they are in our tourism industry and our businesses. And the last that I would speak on is investing in our niche programs. In Barbados, we are well known as being the culinary capital of the Caribbean. And this is not just because my grandmother's cooking is better than your grandmother's cooking, or my street food is better than your street food. The reason we market ourselves similar to other Caribbean islands, we market ourselves as the culinary capital of the Caribbean because many of our people have the opportunity to try any style of restaurant or beverage experience, bar experience, as well as our festival, the Food and Rum Festival, which is well known around the world. And that is why I say we must invest in niche programs, because as you can see on my screen, many of those individuals are very young people that they may not have decided they wanted to get into accounts, or they may not want to be an engineer, doctor, or lawyer, but they are artists, and these artisans must be given opportunity to grow. And you have to invest in it because their skill set is a two-sided coin. They have a skill set with their hands and the way that they speak. But at the same time, we must show how we must invest in their professional development, show them how to communicate in business cases, how to negotiate, how to market themselves beyond what their skill set is. And these are areas that we need to create in order to build out the niche programs of our industry. We also have other programs in Barbados, one that our operations manager and our tourism liaison are leading, which is called the Bajan Harvest Hub. And this looks at a program between our culinary professionals as well as our purchasing managers with local farmers. And this is how we bridge back into the communities and our people, as I mentioned before. And this looks at if in some seasons that, let's say, for example, sweet potato produce is low, but the menus are created, you can redesign the menus to fixate on what is available in the farming world. That way, you reduce the imports and you can also supply to the communities by increasing trade. And these are some of the small areas that we are going to talk about today with reference to investing in niche programs. Now that we've spoken about the past tourism, we've spoken about our current landscape in a brief nutshell. I also want to speak about the future sustainability of the industry by linking tourism beyond just the financial ROI. You have to be diverse, you have to be bold, and you have to be creative. Being an intelligence resource and giving an opportunity that begins, as I mentioned, with internship and ends with ownership. You're looking at young persons in schools. You don't have to brand a course and call it tourism management, but there are many that have to learn cross-cultural management. How does one communicate between someone that is from New York versus somebody from Hong Kong? It does not mean that the person from New York has to give way completely to someone from Hong Kong, nor vice versa. But how do you meet in between so that you continue to maintain a peaceful and respectful relationship? You understand each other's needs and you're able to do business. These are things that you need to teach young people from young, because if you ask for an adults to learn it, they're already stubborn in their own way, as many of us know. And the same thing goes with languages. At home in Barbados, we are now trying to organize that we teach Spanish to begin with, Obviously, we look at other languages. We are trying to push to get languages being taught from a younger age. Currently, English is taught, and from around 10 or 11 going onwards, you learn Spanish and French, and then around 16 and older, you start to learn Italian and German and any other languages that are presented to us. But how about we teach our children languages from the time we're teaching them our own language of English? How about 4 and 5 years old, they learn that. And then at age 12, their in conversational language skills are starting to be developed. And that way, by the time they reach university, they actually can be doing business cases in other languages. This will benefit our industry because as we welcome and we expand with more Europeans, more Africans, more Asians, more Latin individuals coming to the Caribbean, then we're able to do more business. The individuals coming to our islands are able to enjoy the experience more because communication is key. And as you can see on the image, I touch a lot on our culinary, on our agritourism, regenerative tourism, as well as our outdoor conference and event spaces, looking at sports, as well as our underwater museums. All of our countries have a history. All of us have gone through some form of war or colonial past where there was slavery, and we should not shy away from what has written our history or has written how our cultures have been blended. We must be able to tell our story. Only us can tell us. Only we can tell our story. It's our history, so we should tell it boldly. And when I speak towards the eco aspect, it's looking at sustainability, not just what you grow to eat and to consume, but also what you do to purify the air around you or protect the seabeds as well as our coastline. As we know, for a Caribbean island, for example, the coastlines are key for our development. And as we look at sports, and as we are well aware, and currently, actually, our West Indies team, they are right now leading the charge in the T20 World Cup, the only team to have won it so many times, as well as we boast loudly that we have the world's greatest cricketer to ever play the sport of cricket, Sir Gary Sobers, and one of our living national heroes apart from Rihanna. And as I mentioned her name, many of you around the world are well aware that Rihanna is the top artist in the world and business lady as well. And she has done it from a very young age, and that gives us opportunity to market the destination without even putting up our flag because it's just shown by our efforts as people. And as you also would have realized that we speak a lot to our future sustainability of the industry. Last year, we would have been hit, not as bad as some of our neighboring islands, and God forbid that happens in the future, but we were hit by Hurricane Beryl as well as some other hurricanes the year prior. And that disruption across the coastline has also impacted us by millions and millions of dollars. And that is our main breadline, which is tourism. Of course, we have other industries and sectors, but tourism, similar to legislative or political as well as financial sectors, these are the top three that support the entire industry because tourism is linked to every single industry and every single person in the island. So these are the areas that we must be able to diverse as well as technology, which I'm sure many others are going to touch on further because AI, social media, and marketing are very important. But we must be bold, we must be creative, and become an intelligence resource that gives that opportunity, not just to market the beautiful destinations that all of us are responsible for, but we must also give an opportunity to market growth to our people, which would be able to sustain through training and development our future as an island, or in your case, as your countries, as well as the tourism industry. And that is my thought around the future sustainability of the industry. I wish to thank you for this opportunity to present. And of course, I will open the floor for any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Well, this was great, Ryan.
Thank you.
We're going to now go into a little bit of Q&A, and highlight a few of the themes that you already mentioned in your presentation. So the first question I have for you, you mentioned culinary arts being really what differentiates you guys from the other islands. One question to you is, for someone who's never visited, um, maybe you can give a couple of examples of either culinary expertise that they could be interested in visiting or experiencing themselves, or other distinct um, distinctions that you guys have from other Caribbean destinations.
Well, one thing that is global that everyone is well aware of, or should be aware of, Barbados is the country that invented rum. So when you go to the beach in Mexico, or you go to Puerto Rico, or you go to Brazil and you go to their festivals, anywhere that you go around the world and there's a lovely cocktail, whether it's a Mai Tai, a rum punch, a pina colada, Barbados invented rum. So for you to
Awesome.
invent any of those drinks, it's that. And when you get to that stage of realizing about our rum in Barbados, we have four locally owned distilleries that are now obviously shared with some other investors as well overseas. But those distilleries that we have locally really takes you through an adventure, a total experience. Of course, you could do the visitor center, which is great. We call that an appetizer. But the main course is when you really go up to the plantation, onto the distillery, and you really see the effort and the energy and the science behind what makes that beverage stand out. And Barbados is well known for rum, and that is one side of our culinary, which is a beverage. Obviously, on the food side, as you would have seen on the screen, we have the breadfruit. We also have grapefruit, which is indigenous to Barbados. Not many
Oh.
people are aware of that. And then, of course, we are very big for the meats when it comes to pork, and then also fish because we are obviously a Caribbean destination.
That's so exciting. I'm ready to purchase my plane ticket now. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Second question to you is what traveler segments are you
Mhm.
seeing the fastest growth in Barbados at the moment?
Right now, you're seeing the MICE market, as well as health and wellness, sports, as well as agritourism. Even though the agritourism and health and wellness might be smaller than that of the MICE and the sports, which fall in the Smurf, you are still seeing the growth there because persons are now learning about Walker's Reserve and Harrison's Cave Eco Adventure Park and all these other things that individuals were not so well versed on before. Cocoa
Mhm.
Hill Forest and Naniki and Eco Lodge and all these other places that when you think of Barbados, they're like, it's an island, but I don't know that you're very big on regenerative tourism. Oh yes,
Yeah,
we very much are.
that's
So
great.
it's quite interesting to see. But the mice segment obviously is a huge one because it has that trickle-on effect to a lot of other industries and suppliers.
Great. How has tourism, shifted or changed in the past 3 to 5 years? Can you give us a little bit of a history and how it's going?
Yeah, in Barbados, the shift has really been in investment in new development as well as refurbishment. You know, we have a group of hotels and under Marriott now that was actually purchased right before COVID-19, and they invested in seven new properties, upgrades to properties, and that's just them. We have some smaller ones, All Seasons Europa. We also have some that have to refurbish after the hurricanes would have hit.
Right.
And typically Barbados doesn't get hit. So we actually were not hit dead on. We were
Oh,
just
great.
getting exactly like the islands more north were hit dead on while we were just getting the waves, etc. And because of that, that's the reality. You can't hide from it. Things are hit in Mexico, they're hit in Florida, they're hit in Thailand, they're even hit in Spain, where I lived before as well too. So when you look at that, what is the reinvestment that we're doing now coming out of COVID-19? New development of new product as well as upgrading our product. We have around 90 hotels or so. And of course, 95% of those hotels are in our member association and they're spending millions of dollars reinvesting as well as their new villas coming on stream. Every month, there's probably a new restaurant or bar in Barbados. It truly is a bubbling culinary capital for the Caribbean.
Awesome. Thank you. For this is a kind of an interesting question globally, is how do you balance tourism with local communities?
Mhm.
You hear about these riots or in Europe on too much tourism. How do you get the tourists out of the cities like Barcelona, for example? But it sounds like you guys have a great ecosystem. How, maybe can you share a little bit about that, about how you guys are making that balance so there's more of a synergy than an
Yeah.
attack?
Well, I used to live in Barcelona for 2.5 years,
Okay.
and it does have obviously its challenges with over tourism, but that comes from another side, which is more on persons purchasing obviously condominiums and then the whole Airbnb, the shared accommodation, I should call it, really and truly that challenge. And they are one of the top 5 cities in the world for travelers.
Yeah.
Barbados is way smaller than that. We are far from over tourism at this present stage. On average for the year, we're around 65% occupancy with some softer months of the year. I think the challenge that we do face in Barbados is obviously one, the media, because coming out of COVID,
Sure.
obviously there's specific industries that are hit more. And then obviously when I say hit more, meaning persons were laid off, and then you may have a bailout situation by a government or etc., similar to in the US with the car industry. In the Caribbean, it was really on tourism. So from a media perspective and what we tell locals is that we have to show them the opportunity in the industry. How do we secure it and how do we diversify? We must also look at our linkages between the other sectors, whether that's the financial sector, the agriculture, manufacturing, distribution, wherever it is, and really show the ripple on effect. Until maybe 2 years ago, many people in Barbados were not aware that we were making almost 100 million US from sports tourism. But how do we get louder with it? How do we educate that we do a lot of eco and regenerative tourism? How do we speak more to our history and our culture? And I think going hand in hand again between ourselves and the tourism board, we have to do a better job there to show that we have that diversity in the industry. How do we get into revenue management? How do we get into social media management, AI and generative forms of tourism? And that is how we show the linkages, but also the opportunities for communities.
Oh, absolutely. Touching on one of your slides on sustainability, wondering if you could give share a story, a success story of one of those initiatives that you alluded to generally in that on that slide.
Right. So one of the stories that I was mentioning was with regards to a new program called the Beijing Harvest Hub. Ideally, 3 years ago, when I would have come into the role, the team at the BHTA, we started to look at how we could kind of re-energize a program that we had before, and it was called Chef for Dev with another NGO called ICA. And through that partnership, we looked at, okay, we're always hearing that there's a shortfall of supply, but then we're also, that's from the tourism side. But then we're also hearing from the producers, the agriculture side, that tourism is not using enough of the product, etc. But no one is sharing the data between the two sectors.
Sure. Well, Ryan, this has been fantastic. Just one last question for you. Looking into 2026, what are you most excited about?
I'm looking to see the diverse type of tourists as well as the returning nationals enjoying our destination. Our growth has been tremendous, 2 to 3% year on year. And it is interesting because it's not our traditional tourists coming back, and we're seeing more returning nationals. So I am looking forward to that as well as to seeing all the new product that is in place or coming on place. Sorry.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time. This concludes this session with Ryan Ford. For those that are looking for a wonderful summer or winter destination, check out Barbados. I know I'm about to purchase my own flight. And thank you again, Ryan, for joining us. Once
Thank you,
again,
Sharon.
my name is Sharon, and I am head of go-to-market for Aquila, and we do operational and energy efficiencies, leveraging digital twin and AI technologies. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.